Well, hello and welcome back to the Musical Box with myself, Andy Salter. I'm a singer-songwriter from Cheshire, and on this podcast I review something new, enter the time capsule, interview a very special guest, and give you a UK gig guide. But first, the Musical Box has been brought to you by Pireway Productions LLC. Just go along to www.plantaseed.com for any of your online or live entertainment needs. Now, you're going to be finding out a lot more about Pireway Productions and exactly what they do over the coming months, and I'm really looking forward to the partnership. On this show, I'm going to be reviewing a song by a band that caught my attention the first time I heard them a couple of years ago. This is a brand new single called Dancing on a Pin by Pastel. Okay, so I must confess that I do love this band, Pastel. I've liked most of their other singles and a lot of the other tracks I've heard. So let's see if this is up to the same standard. Straight away, that vervy bass and drums. It is so 90s. They're just so 90s sounding. Anyone that likes anything from the 90s, it's British in particular, they've got it. Moving, Teenage Fan Club, Shack. Great groove, catchy melody. I'm just waiting for a chorus. I'm just waiting for a killer chorus to come in. Alright, they're building up to it, I'm sure. This is proper music to me. And there it is. The harmonies, the melody, positive lyrics, expertly played by these young lads. I believe they're from Manchester and South Wales. They're a mad combo, but it works. Great quality recording, great production. I mean, these guys have already supported Liam Gallagher. We supported Feeder recently, I believe. They're really going places. You can tell that they've had some investment, and rightly so. You know, if I had the time and the money to pump into something, it would be a band like these. Pastel, bringing it right back. It's almost like they're a combination of everything that was on sort of like Creation Records in 1995, or you know, Factory Records a bit earlier. It's just, there's a market for this, and they know what that market is. If you like the Stone Roses, Oasis, The Verve, previous to this, my favourite song was a song called Run Rabbit Run, which you should check out. It's got a really cool video too, and that definitely caught my attention. But this is a great single. I totally understand why they're getting the acclaim that they're getting, why they're getting the gigs that they're getting, why they're getting the investment that they're getting, and why DJs as prestigious as Steve Lamacq are championing them. If you haven't checked out Pastel, check out Pastel. Dancing on a Pin is getting a big 5 out of 5 from the Musical Box. So now we enter my favourite part of the show, the time capsule, and we're going to delve back to the 90s and find some psychedelic indie rock with a band that have nothing to do with Star Wars, Darkstar. So, from the ashes of a prog rock band called Levitation, 3 members formed Darkstar, and they had so much potential, in my opinion. Their album 2020 Sound, which came out in 1999, is certainly up there as one of my favourite albums. And the guitarist, Christian Hayes, known as Dick, his playing has been really, really influential to me. So as I say, there's Christian Hayes on lead vocals and guitars. The drummer, David Francolini, he's just got a style of his own, a fantastic player. And then there's Lawrence O'Keefe on bass. Now, I personally think that these were like Muse before Muse, which is quite interesting because it would have been amazing to see how these guys would have grown if they did more than one album. But nonetheless, they split in 2001. There are unmastered versions of a second album available on SoundCloud, which I haven't actually heard in full myself, but I highly recommend that all of you, if you like prog rock, indie rock, or straightforward, some of it's quite punky, punk rock, if you're into any of that, check out Darkstar. Now, last week, I was extremely privileged in having a chat with a personal hero of mine. All you bass players out there should know him. His name is Stuart Fletcher. He's played with the Seahorses, the Happy Mondays, Hurricane #1, and much, much more, as you will find out here. How are you doing, Stuart?
You all right? Yeah, Andy, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm sure your viewers will be interested to know what I've been up to.
well, yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a bit in awe. You know, you genuinely are a bit of a hero of mine. I play a bit of bass myself, only a bit, but you're definitely in the back of my mind whenever I pick it up. And that's so yeah. Well, I might be a little bit shaky talking to you. So I believe you've started playing in bands from about 11 years old. Is that right?
Played violin from age 6, but my dad couldn't really afford a violin at secondary school because you have to start paying for stuff then, don't you?
Right. Yeah.
And it was a bit like he used to be a drummer in a band, so he's like. Well, this has got 4 strings. You can play that now. So got me a bass. That's how it started, really.
So it was a violin first, and then it was the bass.
Yeah.
So 4 strings from the start.
Yeah, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, you really have.
I've done a couple of albums on a 5-string,
but you're a real bass man, aren't you? You are a real bass man.
Yeah, I mean, I can play a bit of piano, a bit of guitar, but past 4 chords on a guitar, I'm kind of a bit useless. But I can hold a riff because it's a stringed instrument, but I haven't ever played guitar or any other instruments really, just bass.
It's crazy, really, because some of the stuff some of the stuff I've heard, you're literally playing like note for note with some of the lead guitar playing, and it's like, surely that guy must be an amazing lead guitar player as well, But you've never really ventured into it at all.
No, never. I've never had any inclination to play guitar. So in lockdown, I was living with a drummer mate of mine, and we did a lot of these online recordings and stuff. And we did a cover of Airbag by Radiohead, and basically I played all lead guitar parts on a fretless. With it's quite a good video actually. We stuck a GoPro on the end of my bass. And then just put loads of effects on. I was using like wah and distortions and stuff. And he banged loads of reverb on it. But it sounds amazing. Like, I'll send you a copy. But
is it on YouTube?
I think it was. I played in a band called Halo Blind. We did an album quite a few years back. We did a second one at Abbey Road, which it hasn't been released yet. But the singer from that band sent us like a video of him just singing it and playing piano, and then we just put drums and bass to it.
If it's not online, get it online, because I reckon a lot of people would be quite interested to see that. I was going to say to you actually, what is your rig, and has it always been the same, or?
Well, currently I use TC Electronic stuff because they have a very sort of high gain impedance. And when I play, I proper thrap it. So it's like I've blown quite a lot of amps up. I think in Seahorses I went through 2 Ampeg SVT3s and 2 SVT3 Classics, one of which I think supporting Oasis. Both
just from sheer volume.
just from sheer gain input that I put in through my fingers. Hughes and Kettler blown them up. I've been Galley and Kruger, blew them up. Mark, I can't use Mark bass at all. Like I literally start playing and they just cut out, and they take like 3 seconds to come back in. So as soon as I start using them, they just die on me. And 3 seconds in terms of a gig, it's a long time to wait before bass comes back on, and then you've got to fire them up again. And so I can't use them at all. But TC Electronic stuff, I've touch wood, I've had good experience with,
Yeah, fingers crossed you haven't jinxed it, because it does sound like you're a serial lamp killer.
I have, yeah.
As for basses themselves, do you still play the jazz?
I had Celt Jazz. I love that instrument. I played it for 23 years.
Yeah, I thought you still had that.
It was basically I'd worn the fretboard down so much that I was starting to destroy it, basically. I mean, the machine heads had been replaced, the bridge had been replaced, the pickups had been replaced, it had been capped frets twice, and I'd just worn them down. They couldn't be capped anymore. I'd had the the fretboard tape that had all been replaced. There's holes in it everywhere. I did a Chris Elm gig, I think it was with Yards, like years and years ago, where I had it upside down and I was like rubbing it against the top of my amp, feeding back and going, doing all that crazy stuff. Left it upside down, feeding back as I walked off stage. Next thing I heard was dong, massive chunk out at the top of it. Well, that was the thing. I kept the original bridge and pickups and everything like that, and machine heads and all that. So I think I sold it to a collector, but someone who's probably going to restore it and try and not use it for because I was using it for live and recording. So I was just basically playing it all the time, and I was basically destroying something that I love. So I thought it'd be better in hands of someone who loved it,
Well, no, but it was a vintage. You had a vintage model there, didn't you? And
yeah. And it was a lovely thing. So I mean, didn't want to destroy it anymore. You know what I mean? I loved it, but I couldn't really justify its cost. I had to eat and pay rent and crap.
So what do you play now?
Well, I've got my kind of core bases for different stuff. So the 5-string that I've got was handmade for me by a guy who plays with a band called District 97. He's a 6-string player. He's an amazing player. He's got his own company called Lowdown Basses, and based in Chicago. He hadn't, at that point, he hadn't shipped at UK. I play with an American prog artist called Dave Kersner. He is currently doing stuff with Steve Hackett, sort of Genesis stuff, and he's playing with members of Yes and all sorts of stuff. He's like right up there. But I'm in his like UK band, and I've been on all his albums, sort of thing. But he did a little mini tour a few years back, and District 97 supported us, and I lent my amp to a bass player who had his own guitar. So I was like, "Oh, that guitar's amazing. Do you make them?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll make one. Send us specs." And so he did. So I love that instrument. And then I've got my main sort of gigging and recording bass is a Warwick Thumb at the moment. I always wanted one since I was about 15. So I've got a 4-string American Ultra Jazz Fender. My fretless is an Ibanez, which I absolutely love. In fact, I'm going to have a look. You don't mind if I just go?
No, mate, take your time, because I can just edit it all up. Yeah. Let's see this bass then. And are we going to be lucky enough to get you doing a little bit of a play on it?
So yeah, I mean the sort of SDGR or something like that. Sound great, don't they? I mean, it's not mine.
It really does. It might be because you're playing it. I'm not too sure, but yes. I mean, bearing in mind this is through the interweb and microphones and whatnot. That sounded pretty good there.
So I use that for like when I need to use fretless stuff.
Yeah.
And I've got like one of these like mini Gretsch ones. They've got a stupid name like Illmatic or something. Yeah, I use that for like sort of country bass lines. Like it's you can get that McCartney sort of sound without using a pick, because the pickups are really clanky, so it's kind of like a dunk, 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 one of them sort of bass.
Yeah.
So I use that for those kind of things if I'm doing that kind of work. But and I've got another one from Lowdown, which was like one of his stock basses that he was selling cheap to me. So he shipped that one over from Chicago. So I call that one Cheese on Toast because it's like burnt poplar. Looks amazing.
Okay, yeah, all right. So you got a good collection there, haven't you? Like,
yeah, I've got an electric double bass as well, which is it's not one that stick ones. It's kind of one of the half ones.
right.
But I don't use that very often. Use it for certain, again, sort of jazzy things where I need to put a double bass down. I'm not really a jazz player. I can bluff it, but
I gotta say, I bet you can wing it. Yeah,
I can wing it, but if you're a proper jazz player, you'd see through me straight away.
I mean, I've obviously been having a little look into the stuff you've done online, and obviously there's the Seahorses. You've been playing with Hayley Hutchinson, the Yards that you mentioned earlier, Rick Witter and the Dukes. We Could Be Astronauts fairly recently, and you've done session work with the Happy Mondays, Saint Etienne, and the Calling. So there's that's one hell of a CV, isn't it? So you've got quite a variation of styles of playing, haven't you, as well?
I thought you'd probably mention I've got an album out currently with Hurricane #1 that I did.
Well, I was building up to that. I was going to build up to that because I was going to say, are you currently with them?
I'm not currently with them. I had some problems with mental health, like depression and stuff.
I can relate.
And so I was heavily involved in the sort of the production of that album. But I wasn't really in a place to. I mean, I started doing the sort of gigs with them. We did that Embrace tour and then got kicked off that, which is a long story. But
right.
After that, I kind of felt that I wasn't ready to do that kind of thing again. I mean, I did Barrowland's show, which was lovely. I always loved playing there. But it just wasn't really right time for me. I was having too many problems.
What's the album called?
Backstage Waiting to Go On, I think.
Backstage Waiting to Go On by Hurricane #1. And is that out right now, or is it coming out?
It is, yeah. It's on Spotify. So I'm also on Chris Elm's new album that he's just released.
Okay. What's that one called?
I think that's called World of My Own. He's been released. I think he's on his third single off it. I think the album's out in March, end of March, sometime. Or
I take it you're still good friends with Chris. Are you friends with anybody else with the Seahorses?
I hadn't seen Andy for ages. I mean, we never really fell out. I mean, I used to be in a band called Pity Me with Andy when I was about 16 or something. And my mate Rob Wilson, who I still sort of play with in covers bands and stuff. In fact, me and Rob Wilson recorded another album that I'm on this year as well.
Right.
There's an artist called, the band title's called Surgeon as Rune Eye. Nice. And we had a kind of a dance-ish track out. But I did a co-production on his album and played all bass on it. So that's 3 albums I'm on this year. So.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to have to get down a notepad and a pen, aren't they, to write all this stuff down. You certainly keep him busy.
I'll have to send you a discography because I think I'm on something like 32 or 35 albums or something.
I can, yeah. You should do really because, like I say, I've had a glance at your basic stuff online. You know what I mean? It's sort of see the highlights and stuff like that. But obviously, I see on your Facebook you're out every weekend gigging. You're doing something all the time. So it's probably impossible to keep up to date, to be honest.
You've got to pay bills, haven't you?
Well, this is it, yeah.
Music's like getting removed from schools and all sorts, isn't it? It's disgusting what they're doing. And, and arts and culture. All this stuff about when we were locked down and all that and, being told to get a proper job or whatever. But yeah, they're all stuck in their houses listening to art and music and culture. It's like all those artists are creating all the stuff that kept everyone going. It's like, yeah, it's not classed as a proper job. If you move to France treats their musicians really well. They have set money and, it's classed as real work. I mean, people don't even pay for music anymore. It's disgusting. I mean, you look at what you get from Spotify and all that. I mean, I should be absolutely minted with all albums I've done.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Has it changed since the 90s, in your opinion, either?
absolutely. I mean, certainly in terms of record contracts and stuff like that. But unfortunately, you know, living in York, you know, rents for one-bedroom flats are like between 800 and £1,000, you know, a month. Plus, you know, energy bill. I mean, I don't even have any gas, and it's 150 quid a month just for Lecky. And as a musician, you know, with a little home studio, you need stuff, and then you've got broadband on top of that. You need fast stuff for downloading all files and all that and creating music. Yet record companies think, oh, well, just produce it and we'll give you a couple of quid to master it. You know, the only people making money are people that have already established. It's just, you know, I think when all the Napster stuff started happening, labels were out suing them, you know, for those breaches of, you know, using people's copyrighted materials without permission. But instead of like protecting the artist, this is always what the industry has done. They don't protect the musicians that are creating what they're essentially making money from and living off.
It's the kind of product, isn't it? It's the product, yeah.
They do deals with the companies that are ripping off music. So therefore, I don't know how musicians can actually afford to create music anymore. And people don't, you know, the market's saturated with just absolute turgid nonsense. You know, music's become unimportant. You know, it used to be that, you know, it was the height of social sort of, you know, musicians were respected, and, you know, and their art, it's art, you know, you're creating, it's a piece of your soul, you know what I mean?
We all know they just don't pay out anywhere near enough. You know what I mean? They really, like you say before, I think you need something like 1 billion streams to make 100 grand, and then 100 grand's not going to last you forever, is it? You know,
I mean, that'd be awesome, but most, I think they're bringing in a new law on Spotify that unless you get 1,000 listens, you're not going to get a penny anyway. They're not even going to pay you unless you're over 1,000. It's kind of a catch-22 because, I mean, I pay for it because I need to use it, but I don't like paying for it because, you know, for me to pay them that is like hundreds of players, you know, I get like bugger all from them. Yeah, I'm paying them money, but if all the artists removed all their material from it, it kills Spotify.
It's far too big. It's far too big now. I mean, I think when, like you said earlier, Napster, when that started, and that was probably the start of the avalanche. Like it was Lars Ulrich and Metallica. They jumped straight out there, didn't they? Said, "No, we don't want this. This is the beginning of the end." Yeah. And a lot of people laughed it off, you know, and were like, "No, it's the future." Blah blah blah. And
I mean, technically,
they were totally right, weren't they? They were totally right.
Well, I mean, it is the future. I mean, I have nothing against it. I mean, I think it is the way for it. It brings it to a massive audience, but what it comes down to is greed. And, you know, these companies could just still make a profit and pay musicians fairly for the work. So, you know, if they just took their percentage, they'd have all the music on there anyway. But really what it's about is the people making all the profit from it. You know, they're making millions and millions of profit, but not paying people fairly. It's like, you know, a tiered payment system would work. You know, it's just so bad.
I think they do. I think what they do, which is not right in my opinion at all, because it sort of keeps the artist at bay, is I think that particular acts, and I do mean an elite 1%, your Taylor Swifts, your Ed Sheerans, your Justin Biebers, these guys that get billions of streams on a daily basis, I'm pretty sure the streaming companies pay them more, because otherwise if they walked away from it, then obviously it would make an impact, wouldn't it? So they must pay them fairly. So let's be honest, when they're saying, "Oh, we're not going to pay people for having tracks that have got less than 1,000 streams," they're already kind of doing that anyway, but at a lot higher threshold, aren't they? They're not paying anyone for millions of streams.
I think if you've got 1 billion streams, then, you know, you should be paid fairly for those 1 billion streams, because, you know, but, you know, they would still get the same percentage. All artists should be paid fairly for their work. You know, if you've only got 1,000 streams, you're not as popular as someone with 1 billion streams. So you're not going to make as much money, and that is it's about fairness.
It's fair. Yeah.
But in the old days, I think they used to have A&R that would go out and watch a load of bands. They'd sign 10 sort of different bands. you know, one of them would make it and pay for the other 9 for the label, so they'd make
Yeah,
a profit, you know.
I think
But
that
now,
was pretty common, wasn't it? Really, especially with the indie labels.
yeah, but now there's none of that. It's all just this greed and profit and business, and really people are forgetting about the people that are creating the actual products. You know, it's, you know, musicians can't afford to eat and pay rent and live anywhere, and you know, how are they going to make music? You know.
No, but it's right. You're exactly right. You know what I mean? It is extremely hard. I mean, my own Spotify account with my music, you know, it's humble, but you know, there's a decent amount of followers and a decent amount of streams on there, and I do quite often just think, why is that not equating in my bank balance at all? You know, and it's you've got to go out now. Like you say, gig every single night.
Yeah. Well,
You
which
know,
is what most people do. You know, I've
yeah.
done all that work and I've done loads of recordings, but I'm still having to do covers on a weekend just to pay bills. You know, I've been trying to look at maybe trying to get all my YouTube material, because I'm on loads of footage and loads of performances, you know, all over the place. And people are making money from stuff that, you know, I'm not in control of any of it. You know, half of things like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was on that, you know. But I say, you know, I try and keep on top of stuff. But, you know, I used to do recording sessions where they'd give me like 100 quid and then they'd play like an hour's worth of reggae beats. And I would just play for that hour, just coming up with loads of different stuff. And they'd chop it up and make it into dance record. You know, I'd make a reggae album and use it all and cut this stuff up. So God knows what I'm on for half of stuff. Like, my dad sometimes surprises me with, oh, I got this in a charity shop or whatever, and it'll be like an old bootleg of something, you know, and I'll be like, oh, God, I forgot I'd done that, you know. Surprising.
There must be so much footage, mustn't there, of you? To be honest with you, all over the place. That yeah, you're never going to keep on top of it all.
No.
I mean, do you ever go on to like YouTube or Google and, you know, type in like, you know, Stuart Fletcher or Fletch bass, you know, or bass player Seahorses, to see what comes up? Anything new crops up?
Not really. I mean, sometimes when like I've been seeing someone for like 4 months now, and like my new partner, and she's a musician. She was on Voice, and we've started doing music together, and her stuff's on Spotify. So I think, you know, when I was kind of courting her in early stages, it was all like, oh, check this out that I've done. And
yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
You've done it all, mate. You've done it all, yeah.
Well, you know, we've started working together, and she started doing this sort of sonic spa stuff, like with gongs and bowls and all this kind of very spiritual. And obviously, she wanted me to sort of create these soundscapes. She's got this big Sky reverb pedal, and we've had bass through it, and been creating all these soundscapes, and like it's all sort of very like sonic healing and all this kind of thing. They do like gong baths and all that, and it's through like radio headsets. And I was laid back and all that, and what the gongs, you can hear chanting and stuff, and it's like, and they create colours in your head, and they're quite mental things. Like it's something to do with like the sound waves, and
yeah,
I think you have to kind of be open to it. And it's like when you hit that massive gong, like and they do this circular motion thing with a special beater, and you can start hearing all this, but it's the sound of the cymbal. It's amazing. I mean, I
was getting a little bit of that just from you doing it, then, right?
Yeah, well, it's a mental. I mean, some people like see all sorts of stuff, but you know, I think you've got to be kind of really in that deep state to appreciate. But and some of these like bowls and stuff, they're made out of like crystal quartz and stuff, and they create these amazing. It's like a posh version of wine glass stuff, you know. But they create these mental sounds, you know. Because she's on Spotify and all that with
what's her name? You're gonna have to name drop so we can have a look.
Gilly Riley.
Gillian Miley.
Gilly Riley.
Gilly Riley. Right.
Well, she plays, you know, guitar and bass and keys and does all her own production and her own videos and everything like that. So it's pretty good, like.
So no clash of egos at all, and you know, it's all very
weirdly, no. I mean, I think we both love the same sort of stuff.
Yeah,
we're massively into like Betty Davis and Tony Joe White and Serge Gainsbourg and all that kind of stuff. But we're both fans of bass and and grooves and funk and stuff like that. So she's got a single coming out soon. She's on Patreon and all that. So it's kind of a bit more sort of dancing. And if you think like sort of, I don't know, bluesy Jamiroquai.
Bluesy Jamiroquai, all right, yeah.
So
and does she write everything herself, or have you contributed, or
she writes and performs it herself? But I think for the stuff we've got in mind, I'll be doing some co-writing with her and stuff.
Yeah, so you got loads of stuff, haven't you, lined up?
Yeah. I mean, what 4 albums out that I'm on this year, and I've got this playlist called "In the Event of My Death" on Spotify, and it's up to like 300 odd tracks, and they're all stuff that I played on.
Right. Okay.
I keep finding albums on there. I played bass on that, and then I add the album on, and it's 300 or 400 tracks on there now. So, and that's just mental in terms of tracks I've played on.
I'm definitely gonna have to get you on one of my songs at one point. Then you seem to be able to play for anyone. So I've got that recorded now, so sorted.
Yeah, I'm a massive band whore, aren't I? So.
I wasn't going to use that phrase, but no, mate, you've got the skills. Why not? I bet everybody who wouldn't want Stuart Fletcher? I bet Fletcher on bass. Who wouldn't want that? Really, let's be honest about it. In my eyes, you're one of the best bass players around. And I mean, who's your favorite bass player?
Well, I've got a few. I mean, when I was growing up, I was into bass player and drummers. So I was into like Steve Gadd and all that kind of stuff, and Bernard Purdy Shuffle and all that. But bass players, I started off very much into James Jamerson. So all the soul and Motown bass lines, sort of Donald Duck Dunn, James Jamerson, that kind of thing. And then, as I kind of hit about 14, 15, I got right into Flea, Blood Sugar Sex Magic and all that.
A bit of a contrast.
Yeah, well, I mean, from an early age, I was kind of into sort of funk. So all the bands that I listened to were like the Meters, the Crusaders, Herbie Hancock and Headhunters, and which you could kind of, that's where my kind of heart is really. But a lot of the groove comes from that sort of thing. But then I got right into sort of, more Dinosaur Jr. and Nirvana and all that as I got to kind of college age. It was all grungy stuff on it. And whereas now I listen to so much stuff, it's hard to kind of pinpoint anything really. It's like this thing of old singing. You can tell it's Freddie Mercury singing. You can tell it's Bono. Like they have distinct voices. Whereas a lot of the artists nowadays, you can't tell who it is. Because the market's so saturated and everything's regurgitated, and you just you know who you're listening to, sort of, when you hear something. But I think with my bass playing, I had that worry that I wanted sort of to be able to play something and people go, oh, that's they can hear that's me, and I don't really have that because I do such a varied body of work. Like how I play on a lot of the prog records that I've recorded is massively different to how I play in indie bands, and I mean, you can hear, like, I'm quite a melodic player, so you could have a rough guess that it might be me, But because I've done such a vast body of stuff, it's difficult to tell, really. I'm more of a kind of jack of all bass trades, so.
Do you find that you feed off the other musicians in the band as well?
Absolutely.
Every time you're in a new band, you get a new feel and a new way of playing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, some stuff I get asked to do is this is how I want it, so I respect the artist's wishes and just do what they want. Or I'll give them suggestions, and if they like it, they'll keep it, kind of thing. Other people just go, I have no idea what I want, you do something, and I'll just make it all happen, sort of thing. Others will work with me and write at the same time, so they'll go, I've got these ideas on guitar, and then I'll kind of develop stuff with them. So there's loads of different methods, really.
Do you think you would ever do a solo thing?
Well, this is I'm starting to. I've got about 20 songs that are progressing in various stages at the moment.
Okay.
I'm trying to sort of whittle down and start working on something.
I'd certainly be interested in hearing that. Like,
I'm coming up with that many bass lines at the moment that some of them are kind of very dance bass lines. Some of them are like proper old Betty Davis funk sort of style lines, and you know, and my son, I've got a 14-year-old lad, and he's right into sort of. He went through a bit of a phase of being into weird, like Japanese guitar music.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think he got into all that anime and all that. Like,
Yeah.
me and him used to watch One Punch Man and all this kind of thing, which is brilliant. If you haven't seen it.
My girlfriend loves it all. I quite like the Vinland Saga. Anyway, yeah.
He was into is it Satoshi Takanaka or something like that?
Right,
There's a surfboard guitar and all this kind of stuff, which is mental for a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But he's kind of getting into all like, and he was into Arctic Monkeys for ages, and I took him to see Arctic Monkeys at Leeds Fest a couple of years back, whatever, when they played. And now he's into Jamiroquai and stuff, and you know, and I remember when I heard that first album they did, it like sort of I learned all bass on that, and Zender sort of bass stuff.
Was that Stuart? Was it Stuart Zender? Was it something?
Zender, yeah.
Zender, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm very much kind of like that player as well. Like that's where my heart is really. I don't ever do stuff like that, so I'm thinking maybe I should do an album of stuff that I actually like. You know,
maybe you should reach out to JK and get him on a track or something.
Well, I'll have one of his cars. That'll be nice. I mean, I can't drive, but I'll have one. You know, I'll probably flog it in by the house.
Just buy a new bass. Buy a new bass.
I'm not allowed.
Who needs a house?
I can't buy any more basses. Have you got a cheeky pint there?
I have, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. I needed it just to steady my nerves before I did this because I was just a little bit like Jesus. You know what I mean? So it's Fletcher and Seahorses, like, you know what I mean? So it's no mean feat, mate. I'm not joking. You know that album you did was like one of my favorite albums of all time. Like, you know what I mean? And your bass playing is obviously such a massive part of it.
It was a quite an eye-opening experience, that whole sort of 3 years. I mean, I've been doing gigs since I was like 11, and you won't get this now. Like I used to play in pubs when I was like 12, 13, and by the time I was 15, all schoolmates were coming to gigs, but there was only two or three really young bands in York at the time, and so we used to play with a lot of, like me and Rob, my mate, we used to play with a lot of adult bands. So we were, you know, I was in a 60s psychedelia band, or sort of 60s, 70s psychedelia band doing Stranglers, Edie Brickell, and, you know, and Steely Dan and all that. And everyone was like off the tits on weed and all that.
Yeah, it's all the good stuff, like, yeah.
But, you know, at 15, but I was also in like, you know, 8-9 piece brass Commitments type band doing, you know, Blues Brothers stuff and all that, and so I was, you know, trying to do GCSEs, and I'm getting back from a gig in Goole, you know what I mean, and which is weird for someone my age, you know. But then by the time I was sort of 16, 17, just playing in all sorts of bands, funk bands, country bands, you know, and blues bands, everything. So by the time sort of met John, I was kind of already, you know, I knew Chris, I got Andy in, you know, and so very much kind of went through a lot of stuff. You know, the first drummer, Mark McNeil, I lived with his brother for a bit, you know, like used to live down the road, and I used to go around his house all the time, which is how I knew Mark. And obviously he had problems, so, you know, he didn't become the drummer in the end. But, you know, very much kind of John, I think, put a lot of faith in us, you know, to sort that out. And you know, and it had its ups and downs, but you know, it was a massive experience. It's all I ever wanted to do. You know, I mean, it's hard because, like, I always wanted to be on top at Pops when I was a kid. I was like, that was like the dream. You know what I mean? Get on top at Pops, you've made it, and all that. But then when you get there, and it's really depressing, and you've got to be there for 14 hours, and like you do dress rehearsal, but you're just miming, and you're like, why am I here? You know?
But it's all part of it, though. It's all part of it, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But then there's like the crowd of it. There's like a guy going, right, clap here and all this. And it's also fake, and they don't give a crap about you really. And it kind of shatters that, you know, childlike illusion of you know, oh, it's top at Pops, and everyone's like dead excited to be there watching it. And
yeah, but nonetheless, the time that you were sort of at that peak with the Seahorses, it was like the 90s. You had TFI Friday, you know what I mean? You had Jules Holland and loads of the Word, stuff like that. I'm not too sure how many of them you got to play on, but I know you were on Jules Holland and TFI, weren't you? So,
I was like,
you know, you play live, you know, plenty of times on TV.
Again, Jules Holland was an experience for me as well, because we were on with Party Set and I watched them do Only You live, and it just blew my mind. It was amazing. I love that. But then it's like Jules Holland came out and he shook John's hand, and he shook Chris's hand. And I put my hand out and he just turned around and fucked off. And I was like, oh, thanks, Jules. Yeah, and then invited them to his late night party after. And I'm like, that's a bit out of order, you know what I mean? And got the pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think the best one for me, I think it'd probably be the Glastonbury one, mate.
Yeah.
That must have been something else to do.
I mean, the Glastonbury for me was playing with Happy Mondays. And, you know, that Glastonbury I did in 2000 was like my highlight, really. Because, you know, I nicked David Bowie's lighter after that gig. And
have you still got it? Have you still got it?
Well, I doubt it. It was just like a cheap. He probably got it on Friday, you know what I mean? But you don't give away secrets, but I was a bit off my tits. And I came out at Porter cabin after the gig, and Bowie's just in front of me. I was like, excuse me, mate, have you got a light? And he goes, like, yeah, gives me a light. And I just fucked off with it, didn't even think. I was just off my tits, you know. It's just a memory for me, really, and a good story after. Because
I've heard a similar one. I know someone who managed to bum a cigarette off him, and he says he wishes he kept the stub. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you could just have one and say it's Bowie's. You know what are you gonna do?
But you know, you know.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, you must have had some. I mean, what was the absolute highlight for you of that period?
Wembley, old Wembley Stadium supporting Oasis with Mondays. I mean, you don't get much better than that as a UK artist, do you?
Not really.
Especially supporting Oasis. Where
was that the what they recorded for their Familiar to Million stuff? Then was that?
It was BA now.
Oh, was it BA now? Was it then? That was
yeah.
So that was what 1997 then, was it? Yeah.
Oh no, that was the first time I supported them with Seahorses in 97. So I'm not sure what it was in 2000. They did like Wembley, Bolton Reebok Stadium.
I think it could have been, you know. I think it could have been the Familiar to Millions live album. That you know.
I'm not sure, but it was they were massive gigs. So. I mean, Wembley, it was good. It was good seeing Noel and Liam again, because we used to sort of go out when we did the Seahorses supports, because obviously John's mates with them and all that as well. So. The nicest thing about that was both Noel and Liam came and chatted to me and like, oh, you know, how are you doing? I hadn't seen you for a few years, because this was 2000, you know, like this.
Was it Nebworth? Was it Nebworth when you first met them?
Yeah, I don't think I met them at Nebworth, because me and Chris were supposed to be keeping a low profile. So that was 96.
I'm sure there's pictures flying around with you in there with them.
But that wasn't Nebworth. I think that's probably.
Right.
I think that's probably when we supported them in Europe.
Right, because I know you had to keep it low key. I know, but that's what I was going to say. Like, you know, it must have been really quite difficult to keep your mouth shut.
That one difficult, but low key we were not. I mean, they plonked me and Elmy in a free Budweiser tent, but we ended up on like Radio 1's tour bus and all sorts. And we're supposed to be keeping a low profile. And we're trading Budweiser for cigarettes on their bus and all sorts. It's like, who are you guys then? And we're like,
I was going to say, weren't they asking? What were you saying?
I don't know. We were probably drunk. Yeah, it was just fun times, you know what I mean? And just enjoyed all that. But yeah, highlight probably, you know, I did a bigger gig with Seahorses supported Stones in Gothenburg. I'm pretty sure it's bigger than Wembley. I'm not a football pundit, so I couldn't tell you for definite. But
I think it's a pretty. I've heard of that venue a few times. I think it's a pretty famous one. Yeah. But so, that must have been amazing.
And I freaked Charlie Watts out a bit as well. Like he came over backstage, and I was like, "Oh, hi, Charlie. Nice to meet you." And he just stood there and didn't say out, transfixed. And I was like, "This is a bit awkward and weird." I was like, oh, I was in band, supported you. Yeah, see us, isn't that? And he's just stood there. And then security came and went, come on, Charlie, it's this way. And took him off. And I was just like
a bit of a Joe Biden moment, like just got ushered away, like
yeah, I don't think he was being ignorant. I think he was just like not used to being approached by someone backstage, because he's in Stones, you know what I mean? And probably thought, how's he got past security, you know what I mean? Rather than, no, I was in band, mate. He wouldn't have watched us, you know what I mean? And the only other like weird experience I've had like that was Beck. I remember we're in like these partition dressing room things where, it's like a sports alley type thing, and there's like these curtains are put up, and that's your bit of curtain and that's his bit of curtain. And I remember like we were having like a big party or something in our room. I could hear all stereo on and noise and everyone chatting and everything. So I thought, I'm going to have to go and say hello to Beck. And so I walked round into his little enclosure, and he's just sat in the middle of the room on a chair on his own with no one in there. I'm like, well, that's weird in itself. So, like when your footsteps sound like they're about 1 million decibels and you're walking across the hall to see your sort of headmaster and you're in trouble or something like that. Walked over to him. I was like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Beck. Can I have your autograph, please?" He was like, "Yeah, sure, man." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then he signed my little pass thing, and it was one of them stick-on ones on your leg. So I was like, "Oh, right, I'll see you later then." And kind of turned around, walked, and I could hear us like partying in next to him, and then walked back, and then John bollocked me for like getting his autograph. He was like, "You shouldn't be getting autographs off other bands and all this kind of thing." And I was like, fell out with John over it. And then when I got back, like bloody signature rubbed off in my pocket because it wasn't like a permanent marker out, and it was one of them sticky pass things, and it just rubbed off in my pocket. I was like, oh, all that for nothing.
It's one of the best things about festivals, isn't it? A lot of you can collar people. You know what I mean? You can. A lot of people are exposed. You know what I mean?
Well, so I knew. I mean, Shed 7 had just had a #1 album, hadn't they? That's mental for me. I mean, I used to live down the road from Alan. In fact, I borrowed Second Coming off Alan Leach, old Shed drummer, when John Squire was coming around my house, so I could like stick it out a bit in my collection. And Rick Witter bought me Stone Roses' first album. Like he was like, I can't believe you don't even own that, Stu, and you've been in a band with Squire. And I was like, well, I quite liked him, but then I became like I got right into it afterwards. But Rick's like, you got to have this album, you dickhead,
So you didn't get into the Stone Roses still after you were in the Seahorses?
Well, I think I really like Love Spreads. Yeah. I remember hearing Love Spreads and going, "Oh, that's a mint tune, that." But I wasn't really into.
That's mental. It's a bit mental. I mean, I'll be honest. From my perspective, I'm about 5 years younger than you, I think. So I was like in my early teens, in the late 90s. And I do remember hearing the Seahorses, and I loved the Seahorses. And it wasn't long after I'd worked out that the guitarist was from the Stone Roses, but it wasn't an obvious to me either at the time. But for you to be in the band and not to be into.
I think that was part of why John wanted me in the first place, because I wasn't like in awe of him around. I was more like piss off, John. You know what I mean? Like, and he liked that. He didn't want someone who was just like agreeing with him all the time and going, "Oh, you're revered," because he don't want that, and he can't work with people that are kind of doing that either. So I think he quite liked that about me, that I was not really sort of in awe of him or anything.
Can you imagine how he must be working now with the likes of Liam Gallagher? Do you think he might have chilled out with age, or? Well, you know both guys. Well,
I was kind of like, I had a funny relationship with John. It was like, I really respected him, obviously, and sometimes he'd be like, he's quite hard to communicate with. He's quite a clever bloke, and and he thinks about what he says. You must have seen him in interviews and things. He's very like.
I've seen bits and bobs.
Yeah, it's quite hard to have conversation. You'd be like, "All right, John, how are you doing, mate?" And he'd be like, "I'm all right," and that's about all you get.
Yeah.
But sometimes he'd be really lovely to me. Like he'd turn up one morning and go, "Stu, I've got you some shoes," and he'd give me a pair of shoes. I'd be like, "Oh, thanks, John, cheers." And then other days he'd be calling me a fat sumo wrestler because I put on a bit of weight in America or something like that.
No way.
So we had a bit of a relationship like that, which was kind of, I did have a lot of respect for him, and it doesn't surprise me he's doing stuff with Liam, because I think he's always wanted to do a bit like that. I mean, even from Nebworth, and then he did that Love Me and Leave Me and Seahorses, where, you know, he wrote it at Liam. So, you know, I suppose it was always going to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah. Have you had to listen? Have you had to listen to any of it?
I haven't. Does that
No,
make me a bad person?
I've only heard the singles, and it's not impressed me. It's exactly, personally, from an absolute fan's perspective, it's just exactly what you'd expect.
I'm not against it. I mean, I think it was probably always on cards. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of, like, people go, "Oh, have you heard it?" and all that, and I'm like, I can imagine what it's like, but I mean, I'm not against it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against it either. I mean, I've got no problem with. I've always got on with Liam, and I have a lot of respect for John. So I'm sure it'll be fine, you know. And I'm sure at some point I'll listen to it as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably give in eventually and listen to the album. Like, you know, curiosity will get the better of me as time goes on. But I'll tell you what, I wasn't very impressed with that I read the other day. That they're charging £80 a ticket for a 50-minute set.
Really?
Yeah, £80.
It's not like they need a bob or two, is it?
That and they're not even doing any songs anyone knows. They've literally said we're doing the album and that's it.
I mean, if they're selling it, I mean, why not? I mean, it is a cash
yeah.
I mean, half of the Seahorses' problems with, you know, why it sort of disbanded was feeling like John's using it as a cash cow, and, you know, rather than for actual strict music reasons. You know? I think with Chris and John, a lot of it came down to that, you know, not letting Chris put songs on, but I mean, rather than working together, you know, like, and I remember saying to John, like, do I get any royalties for some section that I'd written? And he just went, no, and that was it. That was last time I heard that. Yeah, well, we don't need it. I mean, that's what makes us good at it. We have to work for our money.
That's it.
You know, I've got played about 9 bands, you know.
Yeah. But no, it's definitely a career of passion, isn't it? There's no doubt about it. And overall, you know, you're looking good. You're looking healthy. You're keeping busy, and you seem to have had some absolutely amazing experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot, and, you know, and still doing it, and, you know, I get asked quite a lot, but, you know, a lot changes in a short space of time. I mean, I in my head, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm not doing a lot, but then I realize I got 4 albums out. You know, well, I'm playing on 4 albums that are out at the moment. You know, and suddenly I'm like, well, how many did I do last year? And then I realized I was on 4 albums last year. So I'm on like a 4 album a year average, and I'm going.
Yeah, and if you're anything like me, you're going to have tunes in your head all the time. Like, you're always going to be thinking of something that you're going to be doing, or you've got working on, or whatever. You know, I mean, it doesn't stop, does it? It doesn't stop. You know.
No, I love the little voice recorder on my phone because it's just full of bass ideas. I've written a kind of an old soul-y tune, and for that, I kind of had all the melody and parts in my head, so I had to kind of just keep putting them down. And at some point, I'll decode it all and work all chords out and then start piecing it together. But
I honestly think you should do something solo. Definitely, I reckon there'd be a fair few people that'd be interested in hearing that. But you can tell how talented you are as a musician. Well, you know, you really can. You wouldn't have done what you've done, would you, if you didn't have those skills? So I think you should get something out there. Mate. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I still love performing as well. It's like, that's my main thing. I love being up front and smashing crap out of my bass. And these blessings are like 38 years old, mate. I'm not going to change them now.
No, I don't blame you, mate. You got proper thunder fingers. You really have.
Well, you know, it's weird how. I mean, I listen to Seahorses stuff. To me, it's quite embarrassing for me. I mean, it's not embarrassing, but
I know what you mean.
Now,
yeah.
It's massively different, and how I've progressed since then. Like, I've done some mental stuff, you know, like some of the prog stuff I've done with the American artist, and the bass is mental, you know, and complex, you know, different times signature stuff, and, you know, and my sort of Radiohead type band, Halo Blind, like that album, there's some great lines on there, you know. And I don't know if I'm mellowing with my old age, but I'm sort of learning to play without the use of anything, you know, and just feeling better about myself, you know, like almost like on on a route to recovery kind of thing. And I think I was disguising a lot of stuff, depression stuff, with abuse, you know, and especially you know, I was drinking bottles of spirits before gigs and things like that. It's not maintainable, and it's just a road to death, basically, innit? Yeah, now I'm kind of like, I mean, I'll have like one pint at a gig now, or I'll have a lemonade, and you know, and I'm totally clean of everything. It's like I hadn't had a cigarette for, I don't know, 3.5 months now or something. So that was the last kind of thing to give up. And
do you feel better for that? Do you feel better for all this cleanliness?
Yeah, I feel great, and it's amazing how much I was disguising, you know, not dealing with, and you know, all these problems that I've just built up for years and years, and now that it's like a massive weight's been lifted, and I feel so much better in my playing and everything. You know, I'm progressing and doing more stuff, and it feels good, you know.
Well, we want to end on a high before we leave it now. Is there any sort of messages or anything like that you want to pop in at the end?
Just you know, thanks for having me, Andy. I really appreciate that you're still thinking of us, and you know, hopefully listening to music that I create, and you know, and obviously hope your podcast does well, because you know, it's good to have a vehicle for musicians to talk about experiences, and you know, and obviously as your listener base grows and all that, and people will sort of go, you know, oh, I didn't realize people were up to that, and they're maybe going to check out your music, and you know, and the odd one might even pay for it, in which case
wishful thinking,
chocolates, you know, or something like that. Nice to treat yourself.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Stuart. It's amazing to speak to you. We'll have to meet up in person sometime in the future. Keep a listen out, like you know the crack, so keep a listen out for my music. I'm going to have a listen out for yours, and listen to all the music that you did that I didn't know you did, and I don't think you knew you did until today. But no, thanks again, mate. If there's anything you just want to say quickly to any of your fans, I'm sure there's some watching. Get it out there.
Just you know, keep doing it, and don't lose faith, and keep listening to people's music. You know, it's important that people listen to not what's force fed to you, but you know, think about what you like, and track it down. You know, and you know, especially for young bands and stuff, don't get drawn in by, you know, all these sort of the attraction, the allure, and all that. You know, get yourselves, you know, good lawyers, and you know, think about what you're doing, and think about protecting yourselves. You know, and think about what you're creating. You're creating art, as you know, it is art. It's creative. You know, it's you're not a commodity. You're not a product. You know what I mean? You're an artist. Simple as that, man.
What a fantastic guest Fletch was there. I'm really, really honoured to have spoke to you, and we're going to have to get you on again in the future. Now then, it's time for the UK Gig Guide. Don't be a fool on April 1st. Go and watch the Hives at Glasgow Barrowlands if you're there or thereabouts. On the 2nd of April, we've got Johnny Marr. He's playing at City Hall in Newcastle. On the 3rd, we've got Star Sailor at the Institute in Birmingham. On the 4th, it's Underworld at Usher Hall in Edinburgh. On the 5th, you've got to check out Jilly Riley. Obviously, Fletcher's going to be playing with her. That's at lunchtime on BBC Radio Leeds. On the 6th, Pastel are going to be playing at the O2 Institute in Birmingham. On the 7th, Mika is at the Apollo in Manchester. On the 8th, we've got Paul Weller at Cliffs Pavilion in Southend. On the 9th, Hans Zimmer. He's at the World Resort Arena in Birmingham. On the 10th, James Blunt. He's at the Royal Albert Hall in London. On the 11th is Yellow Days at the Trinity in Bristol. On the 12th is the K's at the Tramshed in Cardiff. The 13th is the Chasms at the Jacaranda in Liverpool. On the 14th is Slum Village. They're playing at the Academy in Islington. The 15th is Bare Naked Ladies. They're at the Assembly Rooms in Edinburgh. The 16th, Alfie Dukes. He's at King Tut's in Glasgow. Classic venue, that, of course. Eric Cantona, he's playing on the 17th of April at the Shepherd's Bush Empire in London. On the 18th, the Bootleg Beatles are at G Live in Guildford. The 19th is the open mic with my friend Lewis Johnson. He's at Westminster Park Community Centre in Chester. Go along there and play or just watch. On the 20th, it's another friend of mine's gig. The Kids Are United. Loads of young bands from the Liverpool area, and they're going to be playing at the Side Door. On the 21st, it's Jethro Tull at the Symphony Hall in Birmingham. The 22nd, we've got 30 Seconds to Mars. They're playing at the Utilitaire Arena in Cardiff. On the 23rd, we've got The Warning. They're playing at the Garage in Glasgow. The 24th is the Dave Matthews Band at the Royal Albert Hall in London. The 25th is the Mavericks. They're playing at the London Palladium. On the 26th, we've got Olivia Dean. She's at Stylus in Leeds. The 27th is our mates, the Shed Project. They're playing at Xerox in Newcastle. On the 28th, it's Orbital at Rock City in Nottingham. The 29th is Charles Eston at the Lowry in Manchester. And to top it all off is the Black Keys. They're in Cardiff at the Utility Arena as well. So loads of gigs for April. It's ram-packed. I'm going to try and get to some. Try and get to some yourself. Thank you very, very much for watching this second episode of the Musical Box. And thank you very, very much to our sponsor, Pireway Productions, for making it possible. Like I said earlier in the podcast, you're going to be hearing a lot more about them over the coming months. And if you've enjoyed the show, please give me a like, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. And I will see you all again next month.